Good morning. Thank you for watching on my YouTube channel. Again, thanks very much. I always appreciate it when you put a like or a comment or just even watch. And so today my topic is one I've addressed quite a long time ago, but I'm going to have a little different slant on it. Today I'm talking about past lives and past life regression and how the soul keeps coming on back, because I notice there's a lot of fear at this moment about dying, or the fear of dying, let's put it that way. And I know people of faith usually just accept that as part of the way that they'll eventually go, and they know where they're going, which is nice. But more and more people today don't have a faith line, don't have a spiritual philosophy, don't have an awareness of really what happens with the soul. Now, I've studied past life regressions for a long time, and workshops, one little book on it. Actually, the book was about how I remembered all my different past lives, different ways of, in fact, the title is Many Lives and Different Ways of Remembering Them, because very often there was a lot of different ways that the information came to me, besides the past life regression technique that I teach and do for people. Now, it's one thing to recognize, okay, we have these memories of past lives, and a lot of people say, well, they're concurrent, or there are other elements of that, and I'm not disputing that. Actually, I'm not disputing that, except when you begin to consider your soul, and I've done a lot of soul work for people as well as myself, going back and looking at the themes, looking at where they've come from, and what they've done, and how they originally began in the first place. And the cosmos. And from that, I've learned a lot about the cosmos. I've learned a lot about other planets, about dimensions, and about the journey of the soul. So we come to this planet Earth. Now, we come to the planet Earth various methods. I remember when I was learning years and years ago, basically the line was, well, you choose to be here, and so you're here. And then I began to find out through the work I was working with people, that wasn't necessarily so. Didn't choose to necessarily come into this planet. Didn't necessarily choose this particular life. And as I began to expand, you might say, my awareness of how the soul works, a couple of things really came to mind for me. One is the soul is infinite. Right now, we all are inhabiting a body. All the people are listening to this. We're in a body. And it's interesting how that body is picked, if it is picked. That's why when I began to question is like, did we choose? Did we choose this? Because that was the line when let's say in the 70s and 80s, when I was beginning to really examine all this. And what I began to find, and I should say I was shown how when a conception occurs, the information goes out as to all the potential of that being that's being created. And the souls out there see that, and they can basically choose. Now, I will say for myself, when I went back to see my conception, I realized I knew my father. I had past lives with my father before. Oh yeah, problem parent. That makes sense, right? And then my mother, I hadn't, but my mother was a joyous person and very loving. And so I had decided to come into this particular body with the potentials that it had. Now, there's many, many ways you choose. I remember working with one gal who was a friend of mine, actually. She decided she didn't want to be here. Just as she was sort of being born, like, oh, I don't know if I want to come into this life. And I said, well, why didn't you leave? And she said, well, a being came to me and told me I had to come and do this. And I said, well, were you angry at the being? And she said, oh, no. No, the being was so loving. I just knew, okay, here we go. We got to go do this. Now, why do we have to go do this? Or why are we choosing this particular life with whatever potential it is? And I've seen people choose lives because the body was going to be beautiful. Didn't look at what else was going to go on. I've seen people who have chosen to come into a body because a beloved being, which happened to be her brother, was gone ahead of her, and she wanted to catch up. many reasons as to why we choose a body. Sometimes we just do not look. We just jump in. Very often people have had a tremendous childhood. They didn't look. They didn't look to see what other things were there besides what they wanted to discover. So there's a lot of interesting things that go on as to, okay, first of all, why we're here. Now, what about when we look at past life regression, what are we looking at is the themes and patterns. And that was what I got thinking a lot about this week, is how often do we keep repeating patterns? For those of you who have listened to me along, you'll hear me say over and over again that this is an emotional planet. And when we come into an emotion, even if we're in the womb, we reach back in our memory bank to the last time we experienced that emotion and remake the same decision. That's where past lives come in, and that's why they're important, because all of our personal programming is based on our past life experiences. So what are we doing? Are we just keeping on repeating over and over and over again the same old stuff? And that's why we get into personal growth and learning, so we can untangle those decisions and beliefs and attitudes. And I have to tell you, the transformation work I do with people, it's amazing where some of these decisions come from. Ancient decisions we've made long time ago that keep repeating over and over and over again because we haven't cleared them. So the emotion comes up, we remake the same decision maybe 100 times in different lives. I mean, 100 lives, maybe 3, I don't know, all are different. I like to find where the original element, if we can get that original decision, if we can get the original beliefs cleared, it makes a huge difference into your life today. And that's the main reason why we explore past life regression. Oh yeah, sometimes it can be fun. Who was I in another life and what did I do? Unfortunately, when you're looking for behaviors that you do, decisions or beliefs and attitudes that you carry, especially your judgments, where they came from, you can look at a lot of different lifetimes. It's always important, I find, if you can get that very first one, that you really made that. And that's usually when you've kind of just arrived here on this planet. Now, I just want to bring up another point. The importance of where the emotional, like, okay, let me just hang on. I'm thinking and trying to speak at the same time. That didn't quite work. The important thing is when you first arrive into this earth vibration. A lot of people I have found that have passed through my door have arrived at this planet very angry. They have arrived frustrated. They have arrived because they had no choice. Sometimes, and that's usually when they're either sent here or they have been space people and their spacecraft crashed and they couldn't get back out into where they wanted to go, and so they had to amalgamate here. So there's often people who have a natural anger or frustration that has been over and over and over because they've had it from when they first arrived. And that makes it difficult when people are getting tired of being angry or tired of being frustrated or depressed. Like how do they clear that? How do they get a handle on that? And the only way is to go in, find what is going on and clear the whole thing, because then that gives them room to begin to make different decisions. Otherwise, you're on this little, you might say, revolving door. And that's what really hit me, actually. I was watching a Netflix movie. It's a new one that I think there's just up. But it dealt with some immortals, 4 of them, that, they could be shot up, they could fall or whatever, and they could be dead. They would die. And then they would be alive again. And that got me thinking about, in a way, we do that, except we have different bodies. And it takes longer because we have to grow up. Basically, we'll just make a round number of 20 years to become considered maybe an adult. I know in lots of cultures at 14 and 15, you're considered adult, but still, I'm looking at that revolving door. Something happens. Sometimes we die young. Sometimes we die in our middle ages. Today, many of us live a long time. But then we still are the soul will evolve to where it evolves to. And often people ask me, well, how come we don't leave this planet? How come we get stuck here? We get stuck here because it's an emotional planet. So it's not as much as like a lot of planets I've seen or dimensions I've seen, where you can stay for a few, like a couple of, we'll say, I'll use the word lifetimes, and then you go, oh, I don't like this anymore, and you take off somewhere else. The fascinating part of it is that when you begin to look at a soul and the journey that you've gone through and the dimensions that you go to and hang out, and all of a sudden you kind of get bored. And it seems hard to realize sometimes, oh, please just let me have some peace, or let me have some quiet. And you go into the peace and quiet, and after a while it's like, oh, what's next? Where am I going? What am I going to do? And there's just this is a huge universe. And so here we are on planet Earth, going lifetime after lifetime, running round, round and round, and until we wake up. Now, I used to teach, do a lot of teaching and lecturing, and I used to draw a circle on the board and put a line through the middle of the circle, and then a light bulb sort of in the middle. And I was like, and I showed how people, and I really didn't even know what I was talking about, to be honest. Now I know, I've seen it, I've experienced it with people. But at the time, this was given to me as sort of what worked, and I took that, and that was correct. So mostly we kind of go like that rotating wheel, going round and round and round, and then one day we begin to wake up. It's like our consciousness gets turned on, and we go, oh. And in that moment of waking up, we then move into a different vibration, and we begin to learn and understand. And then we begin to perhaps take longer time in between lives as we examine what we maybe did and didn't do. We get taught on the other side. The other side, you know, we just leave this body, but the soul goes on. The soul goes on to learn, to understand, and hopefully remember when they come back. Because remember, you have those underlying programs, if they haven't been dealt with, if we haven't changed those original decisions, what ends up happening is that we just keep repeating. But so anyway, we do have it, and so we become more conscious and more conscious and more conscious. And so until eventually we don't have to come back here unless we choose and want to. And then we can decide to go somewhere else in this vast, vast universe. And so the importance of past life regression, the importance of understanding how past life works, really is to understand the soul, because your soul is infinite. Your soul lives on. You will go forward. You will go on. And so no matter what occurs, you are going to go and experience. And most people get tired eventually of experiencing from the emotional point of view. And yet on this planet, that's what it's all about. To create a balance between our mental and our emotional selves, so that as we come together, we can become conscious and make decisions that are effective, and especially with our souls in mind of the direction of where we want to go. Well, I think that's all I want to actually impart today. Maybe next week I'll have something more to add. But in the meantime, I want to thank you for watching the video. And if you like it, please press like or subscribe if you haven't already. Make a comment. You can always contact me through my website at www.normacowie.com. And in the meantime, I'd love you to have a great day and enjoy life fully. Thank you for watching. Bye.